Moving.
Okay.
Okay.
Great places here.
Rhonda, did you want someone to do your PowerPoint?
Sweetie. That'll kind of tell you where I'm at in the.
Can you just say like next?
Okay.
They're like, I'm gonna pay attention at that.
You're giving me too much credit for
Well, I don't know.
detail.
Okay. I really wish all you guys in the back would come up like we're friends.
We don't, our mic doesn't work, so if
It's
we,
not, yeah.
for the recording, for the people later, if everybody can hear the questions and stuff, that's gonna be better since we don't have a mic.
And we don't bite, no matter what people say.
Quick. No, I love it.
No, I know.
While you guys are moving, I'm gonna just introduce myself. I'm Rhonda Bussey. I am from Cass County, the circulation coordinator there, and also the current MEC circulation chairman. And my cohort is
Sarah Llewellyn. I'm also at Cass County. I'm the technical services coordinator there. And when Kate steps down, sadly, I will be the next cataloging chair.
you're gonna start seeing her more and more and more. We're working her in.
Yeah, thankfully.
Okay, so, go ahead. Today, we're gonna look at some questions. And topics that have been turned into us as things that catalogers might want to know more about as far as the circulation side of things. They're all disjointed. It's not like there's smooth transitions from a lot of these. So it may feel a little bit like this. I'm just telling you that ahead of time. So staff accounts, making sure they're set up right, check-in modifiers, missing pieces, holds, and here's the questions, the burning questions, and the things that make us scratch our heads. Why is this doing it? Transferring holds, canceling transits. At the end, are you sure you want to do that? So, let's go ahead to staff accounts. Have you ever created a staff account? I mean, this is me telling you my sad story. I created a staff account and then it doesn't work. It's because it's a two-step process, and I had left out that second step of the process. So go ahead to the next. So you're going to go to the Circ drop down, register a patron, just like you were doing Joe Blow who walks into your library. You're going to start filling out. Sometimes it might be a library card that you just scan in. I know for the cataloging account at the county is TapTap, so it might be words, whatever it is. You're going to scan it in. If you share logins across multiple desks, stop. Yeah, I'm not recommending or not recommending. I'm just saying if you do, make sure that you enter an email or else an SMS messaging thing to where your account doesn't expire and nobody knows that it's almost expired. You come in the next day and it's expired and you can't get in your system. So make sure you're using an email or text contact method that's going to notify you ahead of time. You also might want to consider extending the privilege expiration date. MAC by default is 1 year. Well, your staff person's going to be staying longer than 1 year, so you might want to consider just going ahead and making that longer, and you can just change that as you want. Can you just go in and put in a different date.
No, I know how. I meant how long.
There's no hard and fast.
There's no-
Oh, okay, sure.
I mean, I wouldn't do 2035 or something like that, but, yeah. Okay, so the next step is to make sure that your paper profile fits the job description of the person you're making that card for. Especially for catalogers, there's those levels, and I took this off. You guys can tell me if I'm right or not. Cataloging certification is required for newly hired catalogers in an established MEC library, as well as all of those who are migrating in, regardless of how long they've been cataloging before.
Yeah.
So you have 6 months for those people to work through those categories. So if it's a new person, you're starting with baby cat until they've worked through those other, that makes sense. Okay, get all the way down to the bottom, hit save, don't hit save and clone. That's how we end up grouping things together, and we don't want to do that. Down at the bottom, make sure everything is correct, go up to the top and hit save, not save and clone. Okay, so now we're halfway down, done. Step 2 is to just reopen that account. We're going to go over to other and down to user permission editor. When you click user permission area, editor is going to bring up another pop-up that looks like this. So this is where you're going to register your workstation. You can pick one location, or as you can see, this is a CastCat account. It's good at any of our branch locations. So you can have multiple locations on there. Then when I say scroll to the bottom on this,
Keep scrolling.
we're talking scroll to the bottom. It's a long way down before you get to save. So click save and your staff account should be ready to go. Questions on staff accounts?
If I click the save and clone, what actually happens? I've never pushed the button because I don't know what it means.
Now do it.
Don't do it.
That's all you need to know.
Okay, just don't do it. All right.
So what it does, the next person that you come along and register, it's going to group them together.
Like even if you close it out and don't register anybody?
That's a good question. I think if you close the screen out and go back in, you're fine.
Okay.
Probably.
But probably. I would reiterate, just don't use it.
Don't go there. Just don't go there.
I've never tested that.
Yeah, I have not either, because then you gotta go in and fix it if it does it wrong, so. Okay, let's go on to check-in modifiers. So check-in modifiers is a way that as you're checking things in, the system will do additional things for you by clicking these modifiers. So, let's go on to the next slide. There are 10 of them. Wow. So, full descriptions of what I'm going to read can be found in the Evergreen documentation. Okay. So just imagine every one of these, when you have clicked this one, for ignore pre-cat, there's going to be no prompt when you check in a pre-cat item. Item will be routed to cataloging with a cataloging status. Okay, and I will say some of these you should probably have clicked all the time. Some of these are for very specific situations. So this is one that I think is more specific, suppress holds in transit. So what that does is when you check that item in, it will not be used for a hold and it will not be sent in transit. Item has reshelving status. So this is great for your own things. You know, you see something come in and it's damaged. You want to check it in. You don't want to have to deal with the transit part of that, canceling the transit and all that. This is going to suppress that hold and put it into reshelving where you could decide, okay, I'm going to send it to catalog. It's good enough to keep here. Maybe for a little bit, you know, it's our only one. We don't have, you know, the scenarios. But if I were to do something from Poplar Bluff, check-in Poplar Bluffs thing with this, it will also put them in reshelving. And it is most definitely not reshelving at Cass County. So this is a very specific, only for your items, check-in modifier. Okay, you have a funny,
I don't even know, so like. By the way, this presentation is for me because I am a Circ idiot. I am not an idiot. So I'm picturing the check-in screen. How do I even know what check-in modifiers are there and where they're
Okay.
checked?
let's flip to the next screen and then we'll come back.
Okay.
Okay. So
Ta-da.
here's the check-in screen. Over to the right, check-in modifiers, it's a drop down. There's a list. Everyone that you click is going to display up here.
And
Then you
all,
have-
all of those options are available for everybody? Okay.
So you can have multiples clicked at the same time. That's okay. You probably do, I mean, you're never gonna have all of them clicked. That's how, we'll just skip over that slide when we get to that, okay? Questions on where this is and how you would. All right, going on. Amnesty mode for give fines. So think about all those snow days that we had that, you know, you had, if you charge fines, you were accumulating fines, the patron couldn't come into the building, yada, yada. So overdue fines will be voided if they're already created on there. And they won't be inserted if, okay, it's due yesterday, and to now, this day you're going to get the fine, it's not going to insert them either. So you can check in without having to go back and take fines off. All right, auto print hold and transit slips. This is something that Cass County has clicked every computer has this on it. Slips automatically print without a prompt. Usually you don't have a, otherwise it brings up that page and you have to click another click. This requires Hatch, as far as I believe. So if you're not Hatch friendly, this is probably not going to work for you, but it's sweet to just scan it and it prints. You can't mess it up. It just does it, you know. Okay, these two right here, we're going to talk about more in depth later because it's going to solve some of the problems that we kind of scratch our head. Why is this happening in the first place? So the first one is retarget local hold. So this is when you're checking in an in-process item. It is going to, well, Evergreen is going to try to find a local hold that will fill right at that moment. This is intended to help with that, you know, I check it in, I know there's holds on it, but it doesn't pull it. So if you have this check-in modifier going, it's going to retarget that in process. Does that make sense? Okay. The second one is retarget all statuses. And this is similar to the other one. This modifier will attempt to find a local hold from something that's being checked in, and it doesn't really matter what its status is. But again, it's local holds. It's not worldwide. Okay. If you want to use this one, you must have that one going at the same time. It's a 2-point thing. Okay, this one, honestly, capture local holder transit. I do not know why any library would want to do this, but I'm going to explain it to you anyway. So this is your items come into one central location. They get scanned in, and instead of notifying that your patron that the item is ready, it puts it still in transit status to give you time to send it to the branch where they have to check it in again to get it to register so that it'll send a notice. there are better ways to do that. If you just want to delay, say you want to have, I check it in, I want to give 30 minutes of padding time there before my notice goes out, or an hour, or whatever your library wants. So that setting, I think it's called hold shelf status delay. So you can go into that through library settings editor, put in a value there, and it will have that time before it notifies, because I've had it happen. Patron comes in looking for the thing, and our stuff is still in the back room, and we better run back there. Yeah.
So that's a setting for everything in your whole library. If you're checking it in, it's not just this one thing
Right,
that I'm
right,
checking in.
right.
Okay.
Right. I don't, does anybody in here do floating? Good, maybe you can explain, because none of us, I don't know anything about floating.
Floating means that if you checking your books, your book is owned by your main branch, but if you check it in at your another branch, then the book is on the shelf there. It just means that it floats and it lives wherever you check it in at. So it doesn't, when I check a book and it's owned by the main branch at another branch, it doesn't tell me to send it home to the main branch. It puts it available on the shelf at that branch where I checked it in. So it's a floating collection.
So when you pull it up in the catalog, what
It tells
does
you,
it say?
it tells you where it's at right now. So what library it's at and if it's available or not, or obviously if it's checked out. If it's checked out, it would say the owning library. So it would say the owning library checked out. If it's available, it's gonna tell you wherever it's living at that
moment.
that it's available.
Okay. I think Scenic maybe floats some things to few libraries that, I think, you know, you guys do.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know
Okay.
how you not float.
It does say that the documentation said floating groups must be considered for this modifier to function. So you're gonna have to do some back end things to make this work. But unless you're thinking you're gonna go to floating, we're just. Okay, the last one is update inventory, and that one just puts in a date and time when you check it in on your, you know, the place that says inventory.
I've used that before.
I love it, I love it. Okay, we talked about this next part where you pick just reminders that you can have multiple things going at the same time. If they're selected, they're gonna show up at the top. If you don't see what you wanted up at the top, it isn't selected. Okay. This one is a totally selfish one. I'm just gonna tell you this right from the beginning. It's totally selfish. The circulation committee is trying to get as many people as possible to change their setting where when you check something in as missing pieces, it actually says missing pieces. Because by default, when you check something in missing pieces, if you have not changed your setting, it's going to say damaged. Equinox has graciously gone in and given us the option to say missing pieces, which actually describes the state of the item that we're talking about. It still can be, you know, if it doesn't ever come back in, it can still be spilled and damaged, or however your library wants to do it. It's just when the Circ person goes in there and looks at it, it's going to say missing pieces. It only makes sense to me. Okay, so this is how you do it. You're going to go to administration. Everything is under administration. Administration, then library settings editor. You are going to make the context location your library. And if you're a multi-branch thing, you want
Parent.
the parent one. And then if you just type in there, item status in the filter. I tried various things because I was trying to find it again after I changed. I couldn't find it, so I only found it. Item status, it brings it up first thing, hit edit. And then the next one, it brings over your context, so you don't have to do anything here. There's a drop down, go down, hit missing pieces. Update the setting and boom. It'll be missing pieces. There. It's a really small thing, but circulation, it's confusing when you go into somebody's account and something's marked damaged, but there's no bill. So why is it, why? So
Okay.
anyway, this is totally selfish on the circulation things. And I figured this is my big chance.
We can help you.
Libraries who haven't done it yet, we might get closer to, being, yeah. Okay, so here's the meat of what we're going to get to today. And I have a feeling that Galen, from some of the things he said, is going to be going over some of the very same things, but hearing it twice, I don't necessarily think it's going to be a bad thing. Galen said this at the beginning, and I don't know if any of you caught it. Holds are hard. They just are. There's multiple processes going on in the background that we don't even see, with the whole goal of trying to find the best, most quick, expeditious whole item that will fill that hole. And so we're just going to look at a few of those processes. We are not going to look at all of them. Let's see. All right, so because of the complexity of this issue, I have received permission from Andrea Bunstein and Mike Rylander to share slides from a presentation that they did in 2021 at the international conference. So just saying, going forward, anything that I have taken pretty much word for word off of those slides, there's going to be an equinox little symbol on there. It wasn't for me. Okay. I don't know about you. My kids never had Hungry Hippos as a game, but apparently the game's got these 4 hippos with marbles, and the goal of the game is to swallow up as many marbles as you can. So my grandma Rylander says this: holes in Evergreen sort of work like Hungry Hippos. The holes request are all trying to bottle up whichever copies they can as fast as they can. If you want to understand more about this, or what Galen can tell you even in what he's going to do, at the end of the presentation, there is a link to the full video presentation of Hungry Hippos, and there's a link to the slides. It's 89 slides long, so it'll take you a while to wade through there, but you'll learn some stuff if you do. Okay, so because holds are hard, there are some widely held but false beliefs that have kind of taken on a life of their own. So the first one is queue position is real. No, queue position reflects the order in which the holds were placed, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be filled in that order. It's just at that moment, that's where they were in line. Number 2, the pull list is static. It's like set. No, it resets multiple times during the day. So something that you pull at 8:30 in the morning, this is my issue. It's the easy reader that's down on the bottom. You've gone and you searched through those little itty bitty skinny things, found the one that it is, you get it back up to the thing, and lo and behold, the stinging hole's been filled by somebody else.
She's not bitter.
Why is it always the one that's on the bottom shelf and it's those little itty bitty thin ones? Okay, so the pull list is a snapshot just at that specific location. that shows the best option at a certain point in time. All right, and the last one, proximity is equal to distance. No, proximity is organizational proximity. How close is Cass NRC to Cass Harrisonville, as opposed to Trails, as opposed to Jefferson County? There's different setting. How many steps does it take to get to those things? I am not going to try to get into that a whole lot, other than to say in 2020 and 2021, we did a proximity setting project. At that time, we were able to get our transit times down to 6.6 days per average thing. That is not what it is today. So just since that time, we've had 20 new libraries come on. It changes the dynamic of the whole system. So I was talking to Galen just last night saying, I think maybe we should maybe take another look at this and see if there's a way that we can tweak some of those settings. So I hope that we're going to be able to get to that project. But just keep in mind, proximity plays a place in all of this.
I have a question
Yeah.
about, because you said the poll list is not static. Does anybody like take a laptop or anything out to the stats when they're polling holds and like do it right then instead of taking it back to
Well,
the,
you would have to re-pull the pull list over and over and over again.
okay,
Do you see what you know? Our goal, I mean, I can only tell you what we've done at our library. So everybody comes in at 8:30 in the morning, boom, that's one of the first thing you do. You send somebody shooting off to go do that as fast as you can. If you have it on there where you can see the times that your holds were placed, try and get the ones that are coming up fast, because it's going to retarget when it hits that time frame. So it may bump to somebody else's thing then. Another reason that when you go back up, it doesn't go. So
I think there's a way to tell that to retarget. Not like a set time of day, so you weren't doing that, we're just disappearing off your list at the 24-hour mark. I feel like,
we're gonna talk about some things
okay,
like that.
okay.
But yes, so I mean, one of the, and a slide that we're gonna get to later, you know, it's good to run it in the morning, and if you have time, good to run it in the afternoon, because it'll catch some of those things that have
Yeah,
retargeted.
I
during
know our
the day.
libraries do it twice a day.
Yeah. All right. Going on. Besides proximity, very best thing that's gonna determine how holds works is best hold sort selection order. And that is what determines what is important to your particular library. So within the two major traditional and FIFO, there's some other more configurable things that you can do to select how you want your holds to be filled. So using the traditional BHSSO instead of all that other, it prioritizes holds that are placed where the checkout library is the same as the pickup library. So think that your thing. It helps holds fill more efficiently, and it reduces the number, or it can reduce the number of items going back and forth between libraries. FIFO, on the other hand, is first in, first out. So whoever is number one in line, that's who it's going to go to. Number two, number three, just down that. This prioritizes the time that the hold was placed. So the actual down to the minute when it was placed. So this is why lots of screens that you'll pull up, depending on what columns you have, you'll see a time on the pull list. You might see a pull time on the patrons hold thing. The hold shelf, you'll definitely see that time on there. So that's why that time becomes so important. All right. Let's go on and we'll talk about these extra ones here on this next. So holds always go home. Causes a newly captured item to go home when a hold has been placed by a patron at the owner's library. So, in other words, a patron has placed a hold at the owning library. The next time that item is scanned,
Wherever it is.
wherever it is,
Okay.
it's going to see that there's a hold at that home place and it's going to transit it home. Regardless of whether at that place there's another hold that it could have filled more quickly, and regardless of where they are in the order in the queue position. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Holds go home uses a time-based interval. So this is something that you can go in on library settings and say, let's just say, that setting is called max foreign circulation time. So let's say you put in 3 months for that. So basically that means your item can go anywhere it wants in those 3 months period. But if after that 3-month period, it has not come home to fill a hole, it's going to force it to come home.
But then once it's home, will it not just start filling holes again?
Sure, well, it'll start filling it's only going to come home if there is a hold at home.
I see.
So then, but you got to keep in mind proximity settings are going to start working then. So if it's back to your home, perhaps it'll be targeted to something closer, but it's that you've got that 3-month window. And during the, it doesn't, this item could be a year old, but here's my 3-month window. And if in that time it hasn't come back to fill a hole that I have in my library, it's going to force it to come back home.
Oh, I get it now.
It's probably because I'm not in.
So the hold has already been placed by that patron
hold is
at
already in-
home,
Yes.
but they're not, it's never coming
It's-
home because it's out filling holes.
Yes.
Okay.
Somewhere else. But that would force it to come back after a certain amount of time. 3 months is not like a required thing. I just pulled something out of there.
I told you guys, I'm an idiot, a Circ idiot.
Okay. Traditional withholds chase home patrons. This is what it says about it. Prioritizes holds for patrons whose library home is the same as the item's owning library, regardless of the pickup library. So a CAS NRC person puts a hold on a CAS NRC item, but they want to pick it up in Harrisonville. It's still going to be prioritized. Does that make sense? Okay. Currently, Dale and I had this conversation. He sent me back some information. Currently, there are 4 libraries using traditional withholds, always go home in MEC. 5 libraries are using FIFO. And the rest of everybody is by default traditional with those tweaked proximity setting things. So that's where we are right now. I know there's been some talk about Missouri Evergreen maybe trying to standardize is maybe the wrong thing, but kind of get everybody more on the same page. I don't know if that will ever happen, but there's been some talk. Okay, questions about what we've gone on so far. Trust me, this is going to play a part in what we talk about when we get to the real questions of I did that, do that. So questions before we go on. Okay. So once your library has selected all these settings, Evergreen works behind the scenes to do this, do their targeting to get the best selection that for the currently active holds. But holds are being regularly retargeted during the day when a new hold is placed. And one hold, something in NRC captures something that is on, hold for somebody else. when a hold request is manually retargeted. That's going to restir that thing. And then the regular retargeting interval. So at the very least, you need to know holds are retargeted in the order they were put in, time-wise. And the older ones get done, you know, like 8 in the morning is gonna be done before 12:05. So older ones are done before. All right, so all of that said, all of this gets us to where they frequently ask questions. Why did this happen? So hopefully, we can learn some strategies that'll mitigate some of the things that make us scratch our heads. Why is this happening? Or at least we're gonna at least know why it's happening. Whether we can fix it or not is. Okay, let's go on. Why are new things not immediately being targeted for a hold? In other words, why can a patron come in and find a new book sitting on your new bookshelf? They have already placed a hold on it, but it wasn't on your push list. And if you look at their profile, it's saying it's waiting for the item or waiting for capture, or it's in transit from someplace else. But it was there. Okay, there's 2 reasons. Number one, the targeter retargets every 24 hours by default. And newly items will not be seen when they come in by the targeter until the next time it runs for that hold, 24 hours. 24 hours. So this is what Equinox suggests we do. Manually retarget those new holds with that check-in modifier. Use both of them. Both of those it'll stir the pot again, and the targeter will see, oh, there's a hold right here that I could fill that item with. Let's see. I think that's all we need to say about that. Okay, let's go on to the next question.
Wait,
Oh, okay.
so would it be best practice? Say I send a cart of new items to one of my branches, they do all of their thing. It seems like for these new things, it should be common practice if they're to do
Put
that,
those
to
to
do those check-in modifiers.
for your new items.
Okay.
So wherever they route in and things come into your. I mean, if you don't care, if you don't mind waiting 24 hours, you don't have to do this. It's just a way that you could possibly get those holds faster. Okay. Anything else? Okay, next question. Why are holds filled out of order? You think your patron's next in line, but no, they don't get it. So you've just finished cataloging a popular new item, now has the in process status. It gets sent to your branch, and when it's checked in or received, it skips over several and goes to somebody further down the line. So why does the hold for patron 7 get filled instead of the one for patron number 1? Stick with me here. And this, when I saw this, and Sarah and I were talking.
Yeah, she explained it to me 3 times and I still barely have it, so give yourself some grace if it takes a minute.
Yeah, okay, so here we go. It almost helps to write it down, the times. A new item is created on May 16th at 1. Patron number 1 placed their hold May 2nd, so clearly before that, right? But they placed it at 3:45, and it's going to refresh every day at 3:45. Patron number 7 placed their hold on May 15th, just a day before, but they had placed their hold at 1:30 in the afternoon. So it's refreshing at 1:30. The system, each hold in the system kind of learns what time it's supposed to refresh, you know, it does it on this time schedule. If the item is checked in on the 16th at 2, only one that it's gonna see is the one that was checked in at, that refreshed at 1:30. Even though this one was placed before it,
I get it, but I hate it. Why?
why?
Evergreen makes a list of all the available copies that can fill a hold when the hold is placed. It creates that list. It says, I want barcode, blah, 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 blah. If the item hasn't been created yet, it's not on that list. Once the item is created, it can go on that list, but it can't go on that list until the hold is
Until the-
reprocessed.
I get it.
Does that make sense?
Ugh, I still hate it.
Yeah.
Well, we still hate it. But I'm just wondering, again, will that retargeter not maybe? If it's in process and we did that retarget local holds, would it,
Then it should catch it if it's a local.
it would see that older hold?
Can
If
we
it's a local
make
hold,
everyone
yes.
click that button?
I can't even make. I can't make my dog do always what I want.
And the reason Evergreen does it that way is because you can't, every time you check in an item, the processing power it would take to go through all your holds every single time is,
Is exponential.
it's gonna slow the system down way to be,
So
to
it's
the
also,
where it's
you know,
unusable. It's like,
You get something and you lose something. It gets, but if you're only retargeting local things, that's not stirring the whole NEC pot, so to speak. So again, I think this is something that could be mitigated by doing those extra check-in modifiers. Questions? Doesn't it just kind of,
Can you make it a best practice?
we can try,
Yeah.
we can try.
I had to understand this with circles and lines. That's the only way I could get it straight.
I know, that's what I was writing down.
Drawing it.
Wait, right, right. Okay. Any other questions on that? It's nuts. I'm not a programmer, so, you know, programmers do what they have to do, and just because I don't like it, doesn't mean that it's possible to get it the way that I want it, so.
I want it and I want it
Now. Yeah. Okay, let's go on. All right, so you've just finished, I gotta turn my page. Here's another one. Why, if my library has an item that can fill a hole for my patron sitting on the shelf, is the hole being filled by another library? Again, it goes back to the time thing, number one, but it's also opportunistic holds. So I run my pull list in the morning. I've pulled everything then, but in the meantime, something else has gone onto the pull list that could have been filled by me, but I don't know that I need to go pull it. Hence you know, it's a good idea to run that maybe more than once if you can. So it's an opportunistic hold that gets picked up from someplace else. Then it's gonna take, you know, 7 days for it to get here to your patron. It's already probably in transit, but if the patron is right there in front of you, check the one out that's in your, go ahead and just do it. When the hold gets to you, the can, you know, it'll say there's no hold here, it'll go back home. Unfortunately, we'll have to transit something that we wouldn't necessarily have had to otherwise. Just go
But the
ahead.
patron will have the book.
The patron will have the items right then. Just go ahead and do it. Okay, so pulling that poll list more than once, I mean, summer library program. I don't know about you guys, but just the sheer number of volume of things that have to be pulled, we're lucky if we get through it one day, you know, once a day, but the rest of the year, we can certainly manage to do it. All right, questions on any of those things that just make you go, oh my gosh, why did that happen? So transferring holds, you can transfer a hold from one item to another item. Reasonably easy. This does assume that you know the patron who needs to have the hold transferred. You know, you've got either like your hopeless holds list or you've got, you know, patron comes in and says, why has this not come? And, you know, you look in it and there's all kinds of scenarios. So, the other thing, I tested it. I had not used this method before, but now that I know how to do it, it's like, I can do that. It will change from one bib record to a different bib record. So let's say you've got, you know, whatever title it is, and the person has it in regular print. But for whatever reason, we can't get it that way anymore. And I want to get it for them in large print and they're willing to take it, I can transfer it across bib records. Right? All right, so assuming that you already know who wants the item and what item that you want, what you're going to do is go into your catalog record and actually click into the item. Okay, so you find the one that the record that you want to transfer. Go over. I think it says Mark 4. And then go down to title transfer. I said that right? Yes, title hold transfer. So this, what it's going to do is pull something off of this bib record. It's a title hold. It's not saying I want this one. It's going to pull something off of this record. Now, let me see, is there another? Yes. Step 2. Yes. Go to the next slide. Oh, you did. All right. So, I'm like, ugh. Yeah. Oh well. All right. So, I'm going to mark the one I want. I'm going to go to actions and then go transfer to mark title. As soon as you hit transfer to mark title, if this is art, oftentimes you'll see that barcode change just boom right like that. If there's not one available, and it still be waiting, but
It's like when you transfer an item, it reminds me of how we transfer items from one bin to another. Works the
okay.
same.
So you guys are probably familiar with that kind of process. The other thing you can do, you know, before I knew that this existed, dealing with the hopeless hold, I go look up another thing, put a hold on it, change the hold request date and time, and then delete that other hold. It takes lots of clicks and lots of places that I mess it up. This is pretty straightforward, and
So you learned something while trying to teach us?
I did. Well, and I learned a whole lot about holds that I didn't really understand really either. So yes, that would be true. Questions on transferring holds there, or title, yeah. Okay. Canceling transits. Number one thing to remember is you have to have a follow-up action. Otherwise, it's in canceled transit status and nobody knows where in the world this item is. So it's going to take a follow-up. So this is question and answer. Go ahead and go to the next one. So here's my scenario. Tell me what you would do. Okay. You capture an item to fulfill a hole at another library, and then on closer inspection, you realize the condition is such that you really don't want to send this item, but it's already in transit. So what do you do?
I would check it back in.
But it's in transit.
Oh,
I don't know.
call Rhonda.
You guys would have some of these ideas already. Already. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is go to actions, click the item, go to actions, cancel the transit. You're not gonna be able to do anything with it until you do that. So here's some things I would suggest, options for you. Delete the item.
The item?
That particular item, if it's so bad.
Oh, because of the, yeah.
Say you have to, it's an option. Delete the item or check the item out to an internal account like damaged or mending or whatever. Or-
Change it to weed, right?
Weed, but you have to check it out too, because you can't just, yeah. All right, so the other thing, I am not a cataloger, so I don't know if this is a bona fide thing or not. It suggested change it to holdable and the answer would be no. And then check it back in. Okay. I'm taking it on your word that that's a real thing. So it's always a good idea to verify that, you know, this is on hold for somebody. So it's a good idea to verify that their hold went to waiting for an item. Instead of it's now hopeless.
Well, how do we know who that patron is?
Well, you've got a pull list.
Well, you got it.
Yeah, I thought, oh, yeah. We're catalogers. We
I'm
have-
sorry, my child is sorry. No, you have a hold list.
Okay, and on the whole list is patron names?
Well, it can be if that's what your columns
Oh,
are. I'm sorry. You know, I love you. Okay. Here's number two. A patron walks up to your Circ desk and they happen to see something that you just checked in and it's, you know, in your pile there. And they want to, can I check that out? But it's going to another place. What should you do?
It feels wrong to cancel the transit. Are you allowed to do that?
It feels wrong to not serve your patron. that's right in
Exactly, it
front of
feels
you.
wrong either way.
Okay, so here's the thing. All of our transit slips will either print saying it's just going back home. Or it'll say it's going to someplace, this item is needed for a hold. If your item says this item is needed for a hold, it goes to that hold. If your item is only going home to the home library, why send it all the way home and then have to send it all the way back? It's sitting there right in front of you. Do you see do you see the difference? If it's on hold, that's a big no-no. If it's not,
But the hold slip tells us that.
yes, it does.
We didn't know that.
The whole slip should, well, it should tell you that. So you might have to click through a few things. It's gonna come up, it's gonna be a pop-up. It's gonna feel a pop-up and it's gonna say, do you really want to do this? Yes, you do. Just keep going. Okay, last one. An item is in transit for a long time. This is your transit list that Rogan sends out, you know, the long in transit items. At some point, if I don't have it and the place that it was going to doesn't have it, we need to really mark it missing. So in order to do that, cancel the transit, mark it missing. All right, so all those instances, there was a status change after I canceled.
Can I ask something? Do you cancel the transit or do you cancel the hold? Or is that?
You cancel the transit because you don't want to deal with somebody else's hold. You don't want to take their hold off. You want to cancel the transit.
Okay.
And then do the next action. It should bump it to, unless that's the only one on the record, it should bump it to another item. Okay, I'm gonna go real quick through the next one. Are you sure you want to do this?
No.
Maybe not. Go on. I'm not saying you cannot do these things. But they're complicated. And there's lots of moving parts. So if you are thinking of changing your circulation policies, it's probably not a bad idea. Say, Dale, this is what I want to do. What bad could happen? I mean, I'm always work-based. Same thing with hold policies. Also changing user permissions that are on an individual staff account. Saying you can't do these.
I'll say it, don't do it. Do not change singular permissions.
She's meaner than me. But it's a good idea to just run it by. Okay, we have 5 minutes. What else?
I have been enlightened.
I really have, and
It's so helpful.
Oh, good. I was afraid everybody would go, well, I mean, there was a part of me that I was hoping everybody would say, I knew that. I knew that. I knew
I
that.
didn't know any of this.
I will say as catalogers too, there's a couple of ways that we can help Circ. One of those that she mentioned, those unfillable holds or the hopeless holds that, you get every month. Or your Circ contact might get them, I don't know. I always go through all the hopeless holds and make sure that I can't transfer or I can't merge records. That will then retarget that hold for the patrons. Because if it's a hopeless hold, that means that it's, not helping anybody or whatever, but we know that it can probably be merged with another record, and if it can be, then it'll then have all of those other items that you're merging it with to pull that hold from.
And sometimes it's a conversation, I am the one who usually gets it. How badly do you want this item? Do you want us to try to really do interlibrary load outside of the system? I'm constantly amazed at what people, I'm a little easy reader, but yeah, we want that. And then something that you think, really doing research on this. You know, I was just kind of interested in it. No, there's no telling. Anything else?
Good job, Rhonda.
Good job.
I
Rhonda.
learned.
And for my helper here who helped me.
Snaps for Sarah.
Yeah. And you guys will see more and more of her as so don't let, she wants to kind of pretend like she's not there. Don't let her. All right.
Thank
That's
you
it.
so much, Rhonda.
Oh, yeah.
My legs are tired of standing now. Was it? Good. Well, good.
Your slide deck was morning.
Okay, well, good.
You can see this one.